Ooh, that countdown is always so dramatic, and it should be because welcome to Intentioning This Live. I am so excited to get to talk to my great friend and amazing visionary woman, Rupa Dash, today. And these are conversations with the most interesting people to help you reach your highest intentions always. That's our goal. I'm Gloria Felt. I'm co founder and president of Take the Lead, and our mission is to prepare, develop, inspire, and propel all women of all diversities and intersectionalities to take their fair and equal share of leadership positions by 2025. So we've got a lot of work to do. And each one of the Intentioning This programs that we do relates to one of the leadership intentioning tools or chapters in my book, Intentioning. Now, as I introduce you to Rupa, I will tell you that she is the model for the chapter, which is the leadership intentioning tool, Be Unreasonable. That's what we want to talk about today, is how we can change the world by being unreasonable. Rupa is an entrepreneur. She's a futurist. She is a woman who is absolutely sure and driven that she's going to solve the world's biggest problems. I love that. I love that. That's where we should all start. Rupa is the founder and producer of the World Woman Fund and partner in Dash Global Media, and truly one of the boldest thinkers that I have ever met. So it is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Rupa Dash. Hello, Rupa.
Hi, Gloria. It's a glorious day, and I'm wearing your color.
Yes, you are.
Not so much exactly the bold red, but I'm wearing your vibe.
You look magnificent, and I only have little red beads in my necklace today, so I'm kind of slacking off a little because I'm about to get on a plane. So
Oh,
I'm trying to stay, stay neutral of things that I can't mess up, which I am very good at doing. So Rupa, thank you so much for being here with me today. And I'm going to first start with the rest of that quote about be unreasonable and why I love it. George Bernard Shaw said, the reasonable man, and I'm going to cut him a little slack and assume he would include women in this if he were alive today, because he was a bit of a feminist. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man expects the world to adapt to him. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And that is why I used that quote and created that leadership tool and wanted to profile you in my book, because you are, if anything, the most unreasonable person I know, in the sense of believing we can make massive changes. How did you get that way? Tell us a little bit about the backstory of Rupa and what was your path to where you are today.
I think I grew up in an environment which was so unreasonable, but still, I was never afraid to see myself in places or take on problems or talk about problems. Those are absolutely not my cup of tea at my age. And I think that really changed. And my mother always encouraged me to speak my mind, to not only to speak my mind, but to show up in places where I was not welcomed. There are times when you feel underestimated, undervalued, and underserved. But those are the places I think I absolutely belong. And that's that kind of unreasonable thinking really stuck with me while growing up. I'm the first girl in my family to have the highest education, and so as my younger sister. So coming from an environment where girls education is a question, it's often not a priority. It's an unreasonable thing for a girl to even get education. It's all starts from there, I guess. And then of course, if you're a girl, if you're going to school getting education, you're often questioned, like, what would you even do with this kind of education? You would just get married to a truck driver, I guess. Or somebody who owns a truck. That's all you can, are the possibilities of a girl where I was growing up.
What did you imagine you would do as you were getting your education? What did you imagine when you were a girl that you would
I
do?
think I lived in my own metaverse. I absolutely, I think about it often because I had this whole world that I created in my mind, and I would go into it and play with it, and I would pick up different roles. It depends on the day, it depends on what I'm interacting, what I'm reading, or what I'm seeing, what kind of problems that I'm facing at that time. I would just reverse everything and play it my mind that I'm in charge, I'm in control. What would I do if I am here in this situation?
Wow. Wow,
And
I think that's unusual. I think that's very unusual.
and 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 I seem to be very unassuming to the people whom I interact because they would
Mhm.
always think me that I'm going through this and I won't make it, I won't do it. But there is a power in underestimation. There's a lot of pressure that is taken off of you. You're not expected to do anything. You're not losing anything. So I think I kind of played that game, in my mind, and it was a fun game. And I still think um, it's an interesting metaverse I lived. And when I see metaverse really happening, I understand the potential and I understand, how it can break barriers for women, how it can create more an equal world, how can women own more, how can women ask for more, how can women show up differently in their own metaverse, which they are in charge and they are creating it.
Well, explain a little more since you seem to understand the
Mhm.
concept of metaverse.
Mhm.
Maybe not everybody does. When you talk about it, describe what you're speaking of when you talk about the metaverse.
I think it's a three-dimensional world. It's a three-dimensional world that is created by technology, but humans are creating based on their needs, based on the problems around the world, and is Web 3.0. But I don't want to get into technicalities. But just think about from something. This is not. I don't think it's a new concept. It's just a new concept because we are using technology. But we all have that metaverse inside us. It's just a matter of if we are exploring our own metaverse enough, if we are taking charge of our own life and curating that three-dimensional world that we want to live in.
Mhm.
And I think my life has been the curation of my own metaverse, which I played millions of times in many different ways in many different scenarios. And I always say, anything I can imagine, if I say something, I can immediately see it, how those things happen, how I can make it happen. And not to worry about, if somebody will take my idea, or this is like a virgin idea, there is not enough in this world. Those things does not exist in the metaverse because it's unlimited. There is an abundant future. You have to care less about, what will be left from for me, rather than curating a more abundant world where you are playing a significant role, but also creating, unique players with whom you want to play and live in the metaverse, even if you are not anymore in this world. I think that's going to happen, with the new emergent future that I'm seeing.
Well, there's a part of me that's kind of giggling inside because when you were talking about creating your own metaverse as a
Hmm.
child,
Hmm.
I was thinking about, yeah, well, I used to play Monopoly by myself too, and I could fantasize I could fantasize all kinds of things, but a whole metaverse, I mean, that's
Yes,
really something for a child to be really recognizing that essentially the world is your oyster. It sounds
yes.
like, it's like you're making it, and I then the next thing on a more serious note that comes to my mind and that I can't help but question you about is how do you think about people who don't yet recognize that resources are unlimited? How do you square that with some of the people like that start wars, for example, which we
Mhm.
are now in the middle of witnessing once again?
Mhm.
How do you think we can inculcate that that boundless thinking,
Mhm.
the recognition that resources are unlimited, that there is enough for everybody, that we don't have to fight each other for it? How do you see human beings being able to come to terms with that and really make that a part of our culture as opposed to fighting in wars and the traditional narrative of history, which has been that resources are finite and I have to fight you to get my piece of the pie.
I think it starts with all sorts of human created inequalities that we have created in our physical world. In last few years, we have absolutely have got an understanding how the world is actually working, where we come from, how the atom, how the gene, even like producing food in innovative ways, producing children, reproduction of the population is also, it's now happening in many different ways. So I think education is key here more than any, participation
Mhm.
of girls' education, not just girls having, K-12 education, but you know, creating visionaries. What I mean by visionaries is combining this idea of the vision that every young girl can think about the future, or even as an individual, the future that is abundant, but also having the right engineering tools. I don't mean by engineering, when I say, don't mean by going to an engineering school, but having the STEM education is so key here, because when you mix those two skill sets, vision and engineering, visioneering, which I call it, you really
Hmm.
create a unique opportunity for the global population. And that's why, STEM education, creativity are not two separate conversations. These are very inclusive and should work hand in hand. I think education for art is key here, because unless and
Mhm.
until art, film, storytelling, writers, these have to be equally important as the, skills in science and technology is important. And that's where we will change the mindset, understanding that, hey, we have understanding of the world, the resources, the planet, the animals, the biodiversity, everything, and what is possible with our understanding. We are also gaining lots of power, how we can destroy, or how we can, use the resources in a more meaningful way. So with this tremendous amount of power of science, I think we have to invest more in creativity to really visioneer a world that works for everybody and that's equal. This is an unreasonable thinking as well, because there is so much of conversations around STEM education, but STEM education cannot change everything unless and until we invest in creativity. Not invest in creativity, but also give credit to every individual does have a creative superpower. Invest in that.
Mhm.
Think about how you can use your creative superpower to solve some of the humanity's grand challenges. And you know, it's enough for all, but that mindset changes with education. Not just I cannot just think, I will think like an abundant human being, and I will understand it until unless I understand the workings of the world and also my inner workings. And if they both come together, I think we will reimagine a more abundant future.
I love that you include the arts in that, by the way. So, I think many people use the acronym STEAM instead of STEM
Yeah.
to indicate that the arts are part of it, and I couldn't agree with you more. I remember, so I'm going to just share how we first came into contact with one another.
Yeah.
I got an email sort of over the transom from someone I didn't know named Rupa Dash asking me if I would come speak at a conference in Little Rock, Arkansas, of all places.
Yeah.
And I started looking at airline reservations, and I found out it's really hard to get to Little Rock, Arkansas from anywhere.
Yeah.
And why would she be holding a conference in Little Rock, Arkansas?
Yeah.
And who is this? And there was this instinct inside of me that said, say yes. I don't know why, but I felt there was something special about you and something, if you were doing something, it must be special. And I will tell you, when I walked into the room and I saw the the visuals that you had of your ideas about moonshots and how we could solve the world's biggest problems, I was completely blown away. And I still am. And
Mhm.
I'd love for you to talk about how you formulated that concept of the moonshots, and and how do you envision operationalizing things like food security for everybody? And, I mean, some of the things that you had in your moonshots at that conference, how do we operationalize those?
Yeah, I'll speak to that, but approaching you and directly, you again, you might think it unreasonable in some ways, but I think that's the way I have operated all throughout my life. If I have seen somebody doing incredible stuff, and of course, you advocate so much about women's leadership and choice. Um, that's that's it's very close to my heart, and I have been waiting for, I told you, I was waiting for 2.5 or 3 years to really get in touch with you when I have my plans in order. The moment I had my plans in order, I wrote you that email. And that's how you open doors, and knock every single door and open it for yourself. Don't ask for somebody else to introduce you or your work
Mm.
or your mission to somebody. Be your own advocate and just show up. If somebody would call you unreasonable, that's fair enough, because they have unreasonable ways to look at you, but you know the reasoning why you are unreasonable, so go for it. So I knew that you would think about it and ask me why I was
Mhm.
reaching out to you, but it was again an unreasonable thing that I wanted to do. And
So talk ab
I think your second part of your question was, you know, formulating this idea of what is our moonshot. So let me come back to you why we chose Arkansas to do it. First of all, the conference. I think the question and the answer really comes from the location of the conference. Because I'm an immigrant, you often land up on East Coast and West Coast and often miss out the heart of America, which is so. And I thought, let me go and explore the heart of America. And the first thing I do is I go to the Clinton Center, which was quite inspiring to see Hillary Clinton. Her work, it was absolutely inspiring. And then I drive to Bentonville, which is the headquarters of Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt's. But I was not going for the companies, but I was more so going to understand the stories of these individuals that I have read again and again, whether it is Sam Walton or Mrs. Hunt, and also John Tyson. So, as I looked at more closely, I think I thought that America's biggest innovations have happened in heart of America, whether it's how people buy today, how people talk about retail, and how people consume protein, or even like how we see the global supply chain. I think the whole world really have to take a lot of great examples from that part of the world, that is Bentonville, Arkansas. So I went there to study, to understand, how it all started with one man with a vision, and then bringing along other stakeholders and building, companies that are quite global in nature. And that really caught my attention, and that's how I thought, I have to I have to see, what as a foundation we should be doing. And I felt like we are talking about putting man on the moon, conquering the Mars. That all sounds great, but I think the human moonshot here is, talking about equality for women and girls is the moonshot, which is about dignity, choice, and having an equal share in everything. And then we looked at what are those problems. First of all, women make 80 to 90% of decisions around food, whether
Right.
what we eat, what we buy, how we consume, and even setting trends around the new kinds of food, food choices that we are seeing. But also, the global challenge, on the other hand, is the rise of population and the hunger on demand, which is increasing. And and also, as families, we are relying more on fast food, fast delivery. These are not good for the environment. But whereas if women are making these decisions, then why women are not part of the innovation? why women are not thinking about what the new kind of protein will really look like. Is it environmental friendly? Is it good for the environment? Is it good for a sustainable planet? Is this the kind of planet that I would leave to my children? So, and that's the reason we brought in this important conversations to and make it a center stage conversations and to ignite new ideas and audacious goals that can women can solve. I know that there are great women organizations who are doing great work in focusing on talking about the problems. But we as an organization want to move from talking about problems to become problem solvers. Or not just problem solvers, but to encourage how can we use the resources and tools, the ideas that we have to bring women ideas that can solve humanity's grand challenges. Even like thinking about the population is increasing in many parts of the world, but also thinking about the developed parts of the world, the population is not increasing. People, women are not reproducing. If that's the case, I think that's a really larger a global challenge that we would see. And if that's the case, if women are taking, making decisions or making choices of not reproducing, I think it is important to also bring these women to the table and talk about what does love really look like. What is the future of love, family,
Mm.
really look like, and how do we choose partners? Is it based on some app technology that is built by a group of men, an algorithm that is helping us choose our partners based on our preferences? Or is it something more than that? And how can we bring those conversations, important conversations that are key to women, where women are making those decisions, but are not participating in the innovation? And that's where the foundation is playing a part.
I would love to figure out how to, excuse me, how to get people into the mindset that you have
Mhm,
of believing we can do what other people might say is impossible or unreasonable.
mhm,
And have you given thought to how, I know you said education is a key, but when you think about that,
mhm.
what are the things that we should be focusing on, say, in our education or in any other system that you might want to mention that can help people think about the solutions instead of just the problems, that can help people be able to think in that larger systematic way that you're talking about? I mean, how can we help more people think that way?
I think, I'm also a doctoral student in education. So one of my, focus areas and my problem of practice is understanding what is the future of education really looks like, not in typical school environment, but outside the school environment, whether it's a playground, or whether it's a museum, or it's a social feed. So we are seeing, more and more young women are spending more than 8 hours. It's a minimum 8 hours on their cell phones. I think that's the place where we can talk about problems, looking at problems in unique ways. Where, I think Unilever just did something. It's called the detox in your feed, but it is more so talking about women building confidence. I think we have to talk more beyond confidence. Women do have confidence. It's just a matter of fact what kind of conversations we are having. If we only focus on talking about confidence, we will end up talking about confidence.
Right.
If we
Mhm.
if we bring in come to a table where we are talking about big ideas, bold ideas, ridiculous ideas, crazy ideas, I think that's where we will see, oh, I think I can contribute to that. That really comes from my childhood, because my mother would, it's insane, when I look back and I said, where did I get this mindset? And specifically, I can remember during summer, I we never used to go on any vacations. We would stay at home and just study further for the next grade. That's all we did. But my mother wanted to supplement our thinking and supplement, our brains with something more than just what we were studying. But she had no idea how she would do it. However, what she did, she would go around the community and make friends with people who are who maybe are 20 years or 30 years ahead of what we were doing. And either they were writers, they're philosophers, or they're artists. And my mom would ask them if I could spend a little bit of time with them. And I would just go and sit there and listen to them while they're speaking to other people. That's all. That was my summer vacation. And while you are on these kind of environment, and so talking about big ideas, talking about ideas that are relevant in for next 50 years, I think you start thinking differently. I think more women organizations should stop talking about confidence, courage, and being women being fearless. We are that. We are fearless. We have the confidence. It's just a matter of fact. What kind of conversations are we bringing to the table? If we,
So
I think if we put more bolder questions to women, women will ask even harder questions. And that's where we will find different solutions.
so in that line of encouraging women to ask bolder questions, I have a final question that I always ask everybody on my interviews, which is, what is your biggest leadership lesson that you would give women?
I think you are the architect of your own future, and you are in charge of building your own masterpiece. And when you build a masterpiece, there is no expiry date to it. It's only going to be studied over and over again. So make sure you build a masterpiece that's going to stand, uh, you know will stand in the test of time. Even after 100 years, people will go back and look into your story, the masterpiece that you have built, and will give them the courage to even ask questions that are relevant, that are important to build an exponential future, new future that works for everybody.
So, just to sum up some of what you've said, because I think you've said some really powerful messages. You've delivered very powerful messages that can be helpful to anybody. For example, don't wait for confidence and courage. Start taking action.
Yes.
And I would absolutely echo that. I find that you grow those confidence muscles and you grow those courage muscles by the action and by taking the action. But it starts with having that vision and the purpose. And what it's exciting when you have a big vision and a big purpose, and it gives you energy. I see you smiling when I say that. I can see that it has an energetic feeling for you, and as it does for me, and it is what I had to learn on the job. I didn't get it as a child. I was an adult, and as I did the work that I did, I began to learn those lessons, and I'm so glad that I did. And I'm just like, I resonate with everything you have to say, and I cannot tell you how committed I am to supporting all of your work, and love the fact that we are working together on things and sharing, and I can't wait to see what's next. Would you tell people how to find you? Because I have a feeling many people are going to want to connect with you and the World Women Fund and find out more. So how can they reach you? How can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Rupa Dash, or they can find me on Instagram. Twitter is Rupa Dash. I think I'm very responsive, so anybody who pings me, I will respond.
Wonderful. See, I think that kind of openness also is one of the definitions of a true leader, because people who are true leaders always have time for other people. Have you noticed that? I
Okay, can I say something? Some last thoughts.
yes.
I think it's something that I learned from you, and the more and more I interact with you, Gloria, I learn how much I have to unlearn and learn new things. How much open you are, and also giving space for other people's ideas. I think we should not underestimate our power of being good caretakers, because you know once you are a good caretaker, you will leave space for other people to grow. And that's something I learned from you, and I think that's very powerful.
Oh, thank you so much, Rupa. And thank you so much for being here with me today. I will tell everyone how they can reach Take the Lead. Our website is taketheleadwomen.com. My website is gloriafelt.com. I'm at Gloria Felt everywhere. And Take the Lead is Take the Lead Women on LinkedIn and Facebook, and at Take Lead Women on Instagram and Twitter. So you can find us any of those places. We want to hear from you. You can find out about all of our programs. You can join our newsletter. I encourage you to, so that you always know what we're doing. I also invite you to take a look at our 9 leadership power tools to advance your career online course. And you can take it just as an self-study course, or you can take it and get masterminds with me or coaching with some of our coaches. So we wanted to give people lots of options for getting what they need to help themselves lead and succeed intentionally, with much intention, to embrace the power that you have, which we know you have. And somebody who's talking with us today is going to be the person who will be the next leader of the next moonshot, right? I think that's always the case. It's always the case.
You never know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gloria. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And of course, the Take the Lead community is the right kind of community to launch the next equality moonshot.
We're on that rocket ship together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rupa. Take care. Bye
Uh-huh.
bye.
Bye.